Let's say instead of being a hunter, you're a fisherman, and you grow up on a property on a lake, and off the end of your pier, there's a rock pile. And by that rock pile, there's always walleyes hanging there. It's the best spot in the lake. You can go down there anytime you want and sink a shiner or a night crawler. If you wait long enough, you get a big walleye. If your daddy teaches you that, and you go down there and you fish from that pier, sitting on the bench on the end of the pier, 5 times a year, you catch some giant walleye. Does that make you the world's best walleye fisherman? Or does it mean you found a spot where you can catch big walleyes? Did you experience anything? Do you know anything about going to Lake Erie and catching walleyes? Do you know anything about going to some river and catching them and how they work in the streams and stuff? No. And the same thing goes for deer hunting. There's a lot of so-called experts that own some giant farm, and they have 6 or 7 tree stands set up and they rotate through them. And yeah, they know a little bit about deer hunting. They know about killing a deer. They know certain things that get them through. But literally, they stopped learning because they just keep going to the same spots. And if they ever lost that farm, or they ever went to hunt in the real world, like the rest of us have to, they wouldn't do very well. If you want to grow as a hunter, or even as a person, and you want to experience things, you need to spread your wings. You need to float around. You need to move constantly in order to become great at hunting deer. The one thing that is going to do that for you is a lot of scouting. You're not just going to float into an area, walk into a tree and say, that's a good tree, I'm going to hunt there and kill a deer. I keep getting people that come to me and say, I don't have time for spring scouting. I don't really put much into it. How can I just go out in the fall and just kill a deer? That's what I want to do. Well, buddy, go buy the ranch. Do what I was just talking about. Be the guy who owns the farm with 5 rotating stands, or lease a farm. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's the way you want to hunt. But for me, I'm in a whole different mind frame. It's not as much about the killing. If it was, I would go to Kansas and bang antlers together. It's more of the contest between me and the animal. It's figuring them out on his own terms and hunting down specific animals in different areas on equal playing grounds as other people. That doesn't mean everybody's like that. But if you want to grow as a hunter, move around. Even if you have the farm and you have it made, you kill your deer, go experiment. You got an open tag now. Go down to some other state. Go try this. Go try that. Go hunt some other spots. And even if you've got a farm and you're killing good bucks, why not search for the best one? The best one might be on public. You don't know. Look around. Find out what's out there. Scouting is so important, and particularly spring scouting for me, because right now is when I lay the groundwork for next year. It's how I find big and kill big bucks. A vast majority of the biggest bucks I've ever shot were shot in a spot that spring I looked at, found a tree, backed out, and didn't come back till kill time. And the amount of learning you'll do about whitetails just by the spring scouting is worth it alone, even if you never hunted those spots. Just walking in, looking at the bedding, learning how the deer comes in there, learning how you'd kill them, that alone is priceless for your deer hunting resume. Even on your private farm, your little managed ranch, you still have to understand how those deer bed if you want to kill the biggest deer consistently. I see a lot of these guys that got these big ranches that got their hit list of deer, the ones with the cute little names, that they go after and they never kill. Why? Because once those deer get to a certain age, they start to figure out where those 5 stands are. And if you want to get outside of the 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds you keep killing on those trees, which you're real happy with, I get that. But if you want to kill those 6, 7-year-old deer that are smart, that have learned where those trees are, you need to learn where the bedding is. And you need to learn how to hunt mobilely and go in after them, even on private land. With that said, when a deer gets a certain age, and especially under pressured deer, maybe on the ranch you get away with a little more, but pressured deer you certainly don't. Those mature bucks do not move far from bedding. They might move 100 yards in daylight almost all the time. there's a few days a year, maybe 2-3 days a year that they get, you know, a bunch further. And those are the days they're in jeopardy. Usually around rut, which is why most people do so well during rut. But if you hunt bedding areas, you have that success all the time. So scouting, you're going to learn those little hidden, overlooked bedding spots that mature bucks find. You're going to learn those spots that people don't look for. If you really, really, really want to be successful, you need to be out there at this time of the year, pounding the ground. And the more you are, the better you're going to do this fall. Now, I just got out of the truck. I mean, the truck is right there. And this is kind of an overlooked spot. The trails take people that way. And this is right alongside the highway. You probably hear the traffic in the background. 2 years ago, I kind of scouted this and found a matching set of 5-point sheds here that probably would score in the like 120s. It's probably a big 2-year-old, small 3-year-old laying right here in a bed beside each other. But it really isn't a good bedding area because of the grass and stuff. But coming in here now, I mean, I'm within bow range in my truck. And there's a pretty good scrape system right here. This trail's all matted down. All these branches are broken from deer. There's even some little tiny rubs in here on this brush, which is, and the trail is already a lot more traffic than what it was last time I was in here. Now, there's always been a little bit of traffic in here. I mean, my son shot a really giant buck right over here like 20 years ago. And there's always been a little bit of action here, especially when there's pressure. It's always been more of a pressure spot. When people put pressure on the rest of the property, they come up here and hide. But this trail is getting pretty beat. But now, first thing I noticed is this tree that tipped over into the cattails. And man, this is kind of where they bedded, but there wasn't good bedding. You know, that could create the bedding we need. Yeah, these trails are pretty heavy in here, at least at some time during the year. They're not being used right now, but they were, for sure. This has created a good little water hole. You can see where the animals are coming down to drink, where it's uprooted, which right away is a plus. And there's heavy trails coming in and out of here from different directions. Let's just take a look over here. Yeah, there's some pretty good trails. There's a bed right here, right up in here. I don't know if you can see that. There's a good bed right there. And I mean, this is, you know, 50 yards from my truck, where everybody parks. There's a truck there every day. And here's a pretty heavy trail coming out of the cattails into here. Not a heavy bed, but you can see a deer laid there at least once. A couple spots like that here. Oh, but look at this. One bed after another. This whole thing is beds. So when this was cattails in here, they were laying in these cattails, in these beds. Now this would be like a jungle. When these cattails are growing up in here in this grass, this would be a jungle for them to lay into. So now they got a good bedding area, good escape. This really created escape, created protection, created shade, and created a water hole. You know, give them what they want and they show up, I guess. Probably keep an eye on that this fall. Be easy to hunt here. It's kind of pinched down here. This tree's just pinched down right to the parking lot. Just getting in any one of these trees, you'd look like an idiot if somebody saw you from the parking lot. But I wouldn't care if I look like an idiot if I'm the one dragging the buck back, right? Yeah, that tree is right there, 30 yards from us. And this heavy trail coming into here, right from this bedding point, it's where the brush creates a point. So there's a bedding point right there. It has a heavy trail here. And I can see poop all over it, everywhere. And there's a big poop. And that tree's been rubbed. There's a historical there, which I said there was some action in here in the past, but now I can see this ground is just churned up with tracks. So I mean, this would be a pretty decent area to hunt at a specific time frame when this sign is fresh, which is what I have to do. I have to put on my detective hat and figure out when the deer are doing this. This tree right here does not look bad. A guy could get right in the middle of that tangle, and you got to expect the deer are going to come off that pointer from over there, but they're going to be bedded right here. So it'd really be a matter of just sneaking in here, but I could sneak into this spot. This wouldn't be bad. That trail came in from over there, and now this trail comes in from over here around, they both meet at that water. And this one, I can see a real nice high rub, fresh rub on here. You know, right on the trail. Right there. It's not a huge diameter, but it's a higher tree. Interesting. Oh, there's another one right beside it. Didn't even notice. And there's another one right there. Very interesting. None of this sign looks real fresh. I mean, but the ground is frozen, kind of hard to tell. I would say they were probably in here, you know, around rut with the rubs and stuff and the scrapes. Most likely. Plenty of thick cover in here. No human sign at all. Oh, here's another high rub. Just about waist high. You know, people ask where to put a camera all the time, and you know, if you put a cell camera in this trail, you look at this deer could not walk through any of this stuff much. You know, especially back here where this trail goes through this really thick stuff. He has to stay on this trail. So if you could put a cell cam monitoring this trail, get it in here before season and just leave it for the season and not actually walk back in here, you'd really get some intel. There's another one of those good rubs. So that buck was in here a bit. There's another one over there. You know, woods kind of opens up here. He comes off the trail quite a bit, but there's rubs all around in here. But this is where that point goes out to, that bedding point, which is where I think he was staying. That's another key point is, you know, you can find trails like this anywhere in the woods with rubs on them and stuff. What's getting me excited is it's next to the bedding. The only reason they're gonna be here is to bed here. I mean, there could be some deer that travel through here at night, but I gotta look at the bedding and just make sure. But I think it's coming from that bedding. Everything's kind of condensing and going down to it. So we'll go look and see if there's more beds there, but we know that there's a bunch of beds over there now. But where my son killed that giant buck was right down here on this point. So we'll check that too. Here's an actual bed right in the woods that's been worn enough from being used a couple times. Surprising spot for a bed, but when you look at this rub here, you can tell it was a young deer, especially by the size of the bed too. The smarter, older deer are going to be bedded on that edge, I know it. Right on the transition. Not out in this open stuff. No matter how thick this is, this doesn't have the advantages. What a big buck wants is he wants to be on a point or something where it funnels the danger to him from a certain direction. Where he can smell a certain direction, he can hear and see a certain direction, he has a good escape, and here it's just kind of monotonous. You know, a lot of people think those big bucks bed in this thick stuff. Now, if you did a drive in here, you'd probably push out a bunch of smaller deer, and maybe you push out a big one from one of the edges. But those big deer are going to be on the good spots where to escape and stuff. And the smaller ones make more mistakes. So you'll see beds like that. It's not necessarily what you're interested in. Oh, look at this. There's a nice big high rub and a historical one next to it. Yeah. Right as we're walking into where the bedding should be. Okay, I'm really confident that this edge, and as it comes into a point here, the beds are going to be all along here. And wherever that big buck is bedded, it's going to be somewhere right on this transition. I can see a bed right here. It's not a very big one, not a very good one. No rubs in. There's a huge rub over here. Okay, yeah, good trail too, coming into here. You can see branches broken off at rack height. And here's a big bed right here. Right here. This is a perfect spot for a bed right here. Look at this. He is in a tangle. You can get close, but no matter what, he's going to have an escape. Drop down into the cattails if you come through the woods. If you come through the cattails, you can slip through the thick woods. And look at this rub. That is what we're looking for. That is really high. This is what we're looking for. The center of that rub is over my waist. Look at the tines hitting all the way around all these trees. They're hitting way up in here and here and here. This is 5 feet off the ground. That was a good buck. And here's his bed right here. This is really good to know. So now, this spot could be hunted over by that water hole, or it could be hunted out here. You can see he's coming in and out of here. There's a big tree over here that I'm gonna look at for setting up, because then I'll be right on top of this bed. Then I just have to monitor when that buck is here. And there's poop in here and stuff. This bed was used quite a bit, probably for about a 2-week period. It's just a matter of figuring out when that 2 weeks is. You know, based on the fact that there's a lot of rubs in here, I'd say it's probably close to rut when this is happening. This would be a good spot to set up for sure. Each end of this, give a shot down there and a shot over here. That bed is right where that cedar tree is there, that green tree, which is about 15 yards away. The camera kind of makes it look further away, but it's about 15 yards. Here's another big bed right here. I can see another one in there. So that buck is shifting around in here, and I'm sure there's going to be more that way. Yeah, you can kind of see where he's fighting his way through there. Here too, here's some early season bedding. Everybody kind of always asks how you know the difference. Look at how well used that bed is, but it's got a canopy of dogwood over it. It is sitting there when the leaves are blocking the sun and this grass is blocking the sun. So now I got a new clue about this spot. This buck is also here during early season. That is good to know. And it also, this bed and that last bed are way too close to that tree. So I can't set up there. I have to set up further back. So that's part of the whole, scout the whole thing. Don't just find a bed and go off running and pick a tree. Take a look around. But that was used a lot. There's no rubs and stuff. They're not really competing too heavy in early season. But the grass would have been this high. This would have been all leaves. It would have been a jungle. We could walk right where we're walking now and never even know that there was a bed there. Poopies. There's a bed right there in between those trees too. Yeah, actually, it looks like that deer was in here quite a bit. There's some historical rubs too. Maybe this has been going on for a couple of years and I just didn't notice. And this trail here, I mean, look how pounded it is. It is just pounded. So now from right here, that green tree is the tree that has the big rub. And then there's other beds right here. Right? So getting down there is too far, right? But this heavy trail here comes into here. This is the exit. You can see some historical rubs right here. Poopies, poopies, poopies. Historical rubs. There's no actual beds right here that I can make out. Here's a scrape. Again, tell me rut time frame. Right? I think right here at this scrape is where I want to hunt. This is probably even a bed scrape. There's probably multiple bucks that kind of meet here. He's really aggressive about marking this as his area when he's here. So I can get into any one of these trees around here. And what I'm not going to do is pick a tree right now. It's open enough to get shooting. And I am going to pick the tree based on the wind direction. You know, whether I want to be on that side or this side or whatever. I'm going to kind of look around for what trees I need to be in. And maybe if there's a dead branch in the way or something, I break it now. Then I monitor this. This would be a good spot for a camera, actually. I mean, you'd know exactly when that deer is coming through here, when he's using it and stuff. And not as much for this year, but for future years, you'll have a timing down. So if I ran a camera here this year and say last week of October, I get that buck 4 times, and otherwise I get him once or twice during the season, I would say that last week of October, I'm here from then on in one of these trees. Now that tree, cedar tree there, is the one that's rubbed with the big bed underneath it, right? So now I came back on the other side of it, and look at this trail coming in and out of the cattails into here. This trail is just pounded, literally pounded. Yeah, and there's a little tiny back trail going to that bed. I'm gonna keep looking down here and see if there's any more beds, any more sign, just kind of get a grasp. Anything I can figure out here about what is going on in this spot. You know, I've recently gotten a lot of messages about being so intrusive walking into these bedding areas scouting. And literally, I mean, it is early February and hunting season isn't till September, October, November is when we're gonna be hunting this. And the deer aren't here right now. This is too open. Right now they're back in thick cover or at food, they're congregated, they're grouped up. I haven't kicked one deer out of here. Yeah, they pass through here and stuff, but so do coyotes, so do shed hunters. We're not doing a lot of damage. We go in here, we figure it out, we get out, we stay out. Come back and fall. We're not doing that much damage. Here's another trail, just networks of trails. Again, poopies. You know, just going in and out of this thick cover. Right on the transition where the bedding would be. I can see a bed there, there's no rubs in it, and beyond that it goes into the woods. So this does go to a bed, and there's probably some smaller beds all around here. Here's a bed here. Poop in it, hair in it, see the hair? That's a pretty big footprint there. Holy cow. I fit my whole hand in it. But this has been bedded. You see the profile of a big deer here. There is a rub in here. Didn't see that at first. Small deer rubbed that. Oh, and a rub here. Didn't see that. That's higher. I'd be willing to bet that the big one beds here every now and then. And it's kind of got a good location. Just really not a lot of good rub trees around it for him to mark. Now we're kind of right on that point. And here's a good rub or trail going right into it right here. Oh yeah, look at that. There's a bed right underneath that. You see how the branches of that bush form a little hole? There's a bed right underneath there, and there's a cross trail here. That's a good rut bed because you could watch this cross trail and stuff. It's a heavy trail. Yeah, you can see it's being used, but not a lot, so maybe it's not as good as I thought, but it's a bed. I mean, with these trails like this, you'd think there's a time period when they're in here a lot. But a lot of this is probably beds and you just can't see them. You know what I mean? I'd say right here is where I kick deer out of here the most when I walk through here in the fall, hunting. And you know what really tells you there's giant bucks here is, you know, when you start finding the real sign. Balloons. You know, if you're wondering why balloons are relative to bedding areas, because clowns have balloons, and scary clowns hang out in bedding areas. You probably want to stay away from bedding areas. Leave them for me. There's a bed right there, right behind the balloon. Look at that. Oh, there's a big bed right there. Another bed there. This side of that point, the point's right here, seems a little better as far as right on the point. Now, just in this grass on the edge, I found some turds. It's matted down, and you can tell this is a bed, and it's actually kind of large, but it's in real open terrain like this, right? I can guarantee you that that's early season. That is like September, maybe even August. Maybe even a little of July, when this stuff was all leafy in here and this high, right? This was not during the fall. And that's a real good point, because now this is the second one we found that tells me that there is activity in here before rut. So now I need to look at this early season too. And that's part of the reason you do the detective work. I could have just walked away when I found a big rub and found a tree, right? I'm really looking this place over, spending my time in here while I'm here, looking at the different escape routes, looking at the trails going through the cattails, going across the highway, seeing how those deer get in and out of here. So I know where to set up what side, which trails, the beds. You're looking at the beds trying to figure out, well, what time of the year did they use these? Are they in here in late season? Are they in here in early season? Are they in here in rut? You really got to do your homework. Too many people just go in and look quick, set up quick, and they don't have the big picture. If you just hunted this, 2 or 3 times a year and you didn't really take a good look around like we're doing, you could really come up and it could take you 5 years to figure this spot out. By then, somebody else might have moved in here. Okay, so I scouted this area out, and I didn't show you everything. I'm not gonna show you every bed or whatever. The bedding area looks like it's a little less than a ½ acre long, but really only probably about 30 yards wide. And you can see how the deer, the bucks, transition their beds from the grass into the brush as the leaves start getting lost and stuff like that, and the grass gets more and more open. They move more and more into the thick cover. Over the season, you can kind of see the ages of the beds. But I also found groups of doe beds, a lot of doe poop, and I would say that this is probably a good spot to be during rut. Now, some of it could be, there's croplands around here, and it could be a rotation of corn versus beans. Corn years might be better. Beans might be, they're in here earlier, right? So I'm gonna have to pay attention to that, because I know that last year coming in here, I didn't see this much sign, even though I found that set of sheds back here. This year looks much better. Pressure changed this year though too. This property started getting a lot more pressure. That would put these overlooked spots, put a little more deer into them. This is kind of a pressure spot. This spot seems to be better after people put pressure on the property. All the time I spent in here, one more spot that I might hunt. When I go spring scouting, what I'm doing is I'm looking at properties. I'm picking which properties I want to hunt, or I think hold big bucks, not going to the other ones. And the few that I find that I think hold big bucks, I'm wiping out 90% of the property just based on the map. As the terrain won't hold deer, or the terrain is going to hold hunters. Hunters are going to be attracted to these areas. I'm looking for the overlooked spots, the 10% or maybe 5% of this property that'll hold big bucks. The overlooked spots, the spots alongside the parking lot, the spots real remote, across water, places where people don't go. Areas of swamp that are just treeless, that have no place where somebody could get a stand into a tree unless they had good equipment specialized for that. Those are the places I'm concentrating on. I don't care about the big woods where everybody else goes. I don't want to be racing people to spots. And that's not where you kill mature bucks. Bucks don't get to be 6 or 7 years old by hanging out where people hunt them. They find little spots where nobody goes. And that's what we got to do as hunters. And those spots change from year to year because you're pressure too. So when you go into these spots, those deer shift, they move, they go off onto private, they go over to here, they go over there. It's really about finding those 1 or 2 spots in each property and moving around. Trying to get another piece of the puzzle. And I come up in here where this bedding is, and I see some remnants of a dead deer here. Notice that's right in a bed. See that? That kind of watches the access. Some people come in through there. The parking's right over there. Oh, I see the skull over there. Let's see what it looks like. Looks like some big bones. Looks like it tied in velvet. Yeah. Some chewed the antlers off. They weren't very big, but they're chewed down because they're soft. So that happened in the summer. Could have even been EHD. If you look at dying in summer like that for no reason, younger buck like that. I think a lot of these deer are bedding in these spots like this that are just treeless, nasty, grassy, brushy, buckthorn type swamps that have a lot of water in them. If you want to see where the beds are, I can kind of get a hint that there's going to be one right there. They're in like little caves of these trees. And yeah, here's a pretty solid bed right there. And if you look right through it, back here, this one, you'd never even see a deer there. You'd walk right past it. There's another one right here. Look at that. But there's beds like that all over the place in here, little caves where you'd think where are they bedded, but then again, the grass is this high when you come through here in the fall. So this just gets thicker and thicker and thicker in this dogwood grass stuff back here. And there is deer sign back here everywhere and trails everywhere. You know, little beds in these caves everywhere. I know up that way there's some food source. And back that way there's some hunting pressure. There's a bunch of tree stands and stuff right over there. And I have to think if they're bedding here, they're moving to that food. And we're pretty remote and treeless. And I don't think too many people are getting back into here. So if I can get up on the other side of these beds, I think I'll be doing okay. Because coming through here, I can tell there's just tons and tons of beds back here. And really, this is the kind of stuff where nobody goes because you can't get in a tree. What there is for trees are dead. But yeah, look at these trails that go through here. This is the kind of stuff nobody can get a tree stand in. Kind of stuff where I shine and the deer live unbothered. Look at this trail here. Just beat. What's this up here? There's where one died. A doe. So the further I got into that grass, the better the bedding got. I'd say that bedding area was probably about an acre in size with the random beds in those little caves. And it got better and better and better, and then all of a sudden it just stopped when it started to get into buckthorn trees that didn't have the grass underneath them. And then it pinched to a funnel going into crops. So where it pinched into that funnel, all those deer seemed to be coming to one spot, and all the trails seemed to go to one spot and cross through a funnel into those crops. And that looked like a good spot to set up. And we just came out of here down these trails. We came out of this trail here. And there are literally trails coming in here from every direction. Right into here, narrowing down to a pinch point that way. So this is really where a guy's got to be set up. It'd be difficult to come in here because the back border's over here, the side border's over there, and this kind of runs into a pinch point that leaves the property in the back. And all these deer kind of come into here. You kind of got to walk through them. But if I push myself up against a land border and come back, I can come right down these trails and hunt this. So everything kind of comes together right here. So if I got into one of these bushy trees right there, I could shoot any deer that come through here. This is the tree that I was set up in at the end of the season, my last hunt, when I had a good buck come in from over there and bust me and then go walking into here and then just go back off into the swamp. The wind was actually blowing this way, but it swirls because of this hill here. Blows over and swirls in here. And this ain't the first time I've been busted here, and I should have known better than to sit here. I've tweaked this place a couple times. You guys might remember the video. I was over here about 50 yards and I had shot that buck in the shoulder. That was outside of the wind, but there's so many trails that I wasn't covering them from over there. But there's one really good trail along here, but all the rest of them go through where that buck was. So I think what I need to do is find a setup over there and give up the trail over there for a chance to not get busted. More about patience and timing than it is about rushing in and killing everything in one spot, right? This spot just pulls you into right here because this is the funnel, but it's also the wind trap. So I'm gonna look over there, I'm gonna find a setup over there. Coming in here, the wind was to my back the whole ways going west. And now I get to where that buck was, and the wind's blowing east, and a minute ago it was blowing west. You see, even today, it's just swirling around in here. This is the trail that that buck was on, right here. Deer poopies. And I know there's a good trail right over there. Being able to hit them both would be good. So I'm gonna go down this trail, see where it goes, go down that trail, see where it goes, and then try to determine a spot where I can cover all of this outside of this wind back beyond this area. My tree was about 100 yards that way. I wouldn't have been able to see the deer here. And that wind trap is over there. You can kind of faintly see the ridge way back in the distance. This is one of the main trails that comes from there. This is the one that goes up on my stand. And there's another one that splits off right here and goes that way. Everything comes together here. And if you go a little further, it's too thick for shooting, and it splits up and goes into bedding over there. It goes into across onto some private, into some really thick bedding over there. But everything pinches down right here. And this has trees, and it's open enough. I mean, this is a jungle in the fall. This grass is this high. You know, this dogwood all has leaves on it and stuff. But the guy can get up on one of these trees kind of high, shoot down into this, and cover all these trails right here. And really, I think it would be best if I just picked the tree when I came in here. Circle around off of the trails and come in. And look at this. I want to say this from a point of view. You know, I get asked a lot about where to set up and stuff. You look around here. There ain't a rub tree. There's a couple scrapes if you get off far enough. But right here, there's no sign. There's a lot of poopies, you know. Everywhere you look, there's poopies. There's a heavy trail. And, you know, to an untrained eye, this could be a trail corridor, right? But there's good bedding cover over here. There's good bedding cover over there. There's good bedding over here. This is surrounded by every which direction you go, there's good bedding. And those deer travel around in here, you know, all day long. Especially when this is thick during the summer and stuff. It wasn't 2 weeks ago that buck came right down this trail. So, I mean, I can see myself getting in there. That's only 10 yards. I want to get a little bit, with that swirling winds and stuff, I'd want to get a little further back. Like one of these trees over in here. But you got to be able to shoot over this brush too. That'd be easier to pick in the fall when you come in here. Like that tree over there would probably be good. You know, shoot right over this stuff into here. Never walk in here. Circle all the way around and come in from the side. Never walk on the trail. Keep this pristine. So I'm just going to mark this, and then this fall I'm going to come in here and hunt this. And then I definitely won't be in the wind trap. This is all consistent terrain, consistent trees. I should be good with the wind. Walking through just a tangle, nasty tangle. It's hard to get through this stuff. Kind of looking for sign, but there's deer sign here, bedding in here, but it's not the kind of deer I'm looking for. And this is the majority of the stuff I find is like, you know, looks good. You go in there and there's rubs and stuff, there's beds, but it's not the animal you want to hunt. You got to be able to move past that stuff, not make a setup on everything. But what I did want to show was going through here, you know, the amount of dead deer I'm finding is crazy. And here I found a coyote skull, but I still see a deer skull too, and bones. I found a dead one over there too. Just been here for years. They come into this thick stuff and die after they get wounded, I guess. It looks like an awfully small skull though. Although the bones don't look that bad. No, those are small rib bones. That's a small deer. This is it's missing its canines. Oh, it's a button buck. Little baby button buck. Somebody probably winged him. It's nice to come out here at this time of the year because I can walk right across this stuff that we're, if I walked right here during the warmer months, I'd go right through. This has no bottom, it's like quicksand. I can see fresh deer tracks on here, so maybe there's some beds in here. I have to look. But I wouldn't even be able to get over here. I'd have to go through a lot of crap to get through here if it weren't frozen. Not that I couldn't get here, but it would take me a lot longer. So scouting these spots while everything's frozen is probably a good idea. Shed buck, little buck. Looks like he's been dead a couple of weeks. Here's why. He's got an infection in his foot. Looks like he's got died of sepsis probably. Looks like he came in here to bed and that's where he died.